I used to believe that any good teacher was very entertaining. That if the teacher didn't have me laughing during class, and basically you didn't have to really do much work. You just needed to keep me entertained. That if you did that, you were a great teacher. And if you were boring, that was like the sin of all sins for a teacher. I hated boring teachers with a passion. So when I first started teaching, what I thought was good teaching was doing things the way I wanted to learn as a student, which meant fly by the seat of your pants, do things off the cuff, crack jokes, and then just make your point. Now, when I was a student sitting in class, I could put my feet up on my desk, which you're not allowed to do.
You told us this story.
Right, and I would get it right all the time. Now, I then learned that different students learn different ways. And what I need to do is broadcast generally so that with what I do, like the reason you get these lesson sheets is they're all organized for you. And some kids really depend on organization. I used to not care about that, but I learned I needed to get better. I am very careful to repeat certain words. I'm very careful to write certain things because some people are auditory learners. They hear things. Some people are visual learners. If you're trying to remember something on a test, are you the kind of person who shuts your eyes and tries to hear it? Or do you try to see what you saw on the board? There's different ways of learning, and then no one is better or worse than another. It's just different people's ways. So my first year of teaching in Patchogue, Medford, my first year was I only taught 3 Regents classes, and they did very well on the Regents. They might have all passed, I don't know. I can't remember anyway. But then my second year, I had 5 Regents classes. I had 3 Algebra 2 trigs. Back then it was just called trig. And I had 2 geometries. And when the kids took the Regents, I did something that I was told at that point in time no one had done in as far back as anyone could remember, like 50 years in Patchogue Medford schools. Every kid in all of my classes passed the Regents. Now, I know the year after that, another teacher did it, Mrs. Bucaria. And as far as I know, in the high school, those are the only 2 times that any teachers ever had all Regents classes and every kid passed the Regents. So after my second year of teaching, when all the kids passed the Regents, a lot of the people I taught with were very angry with me. And they told me I was a terrible teacher and that I was horrible and awful. Now, remember, at this point, all I ever did was really try to laugh and joke and keep kids' attention, entertain them. That was really all I ever tried to do. I didn't have lesson sheets. I didn't have daily quizzes yet. I had yet to learn how those things could help you out. And my fellow teachers, I mean, they like were really snotty to me and told me I was awful and horrible and terrible. And then I thought they must have been right. Obviously, they knew more about teaching than I did. They'd been around so much longer. So the next year, I never laughed. I never joked. I never told stories in class anymore. I was very, very straight arrow, just do the work, never, ever, ever get personal, never laugh, joke, any like that. I had the worst results of my life. My passing rate on the Regents was like 75, 80%. They're horrible. And I remember saying, I ain't doing this anymore. I'm going back to me. So for some kids, if you're the kind of kid who comes into class and likes to do math every single minute of class, and that's all you want to do, and that doesn't make you bad, it really doesn't, then I'm not going to be the best teacher for you. Because most kids, I have learned, don't want to learn that way. Most kids want it relaxed. Most kids want to laugh. Most kids do want to be entertained. For example, how many people here like stories and entertaining? Okay, so we probably have 3/4 of the hands in the room going up. Because of that, if I stop doing that, I hurt those 3/4 of the kids. But I would help the 1/4 of kids. So when you see something like a site where the kids come out and review teachers, what you have to realize is that the ones who have an axe to grind, so to speak, the ones who are upset, those are the ones who are going to go on those sites and they're going to write things. They're generally not going to write, oh, wow, great guy, super teacher. They might if they stumble across it, but people don't, as a rule, tend to do that. What I can say is this. I do take what I do really, really seriously. And the way the state measures a teacher, is how much the students improve based on them being in their class. And the highest number of points you can get as a teacher for improvement is 20 points. The average teacher gets 13 points out of 20. And they've measured us this way for 3 years. My first year I got 19 out of 20, then I got 20 out of 20 and 20 out of 20. So I just think it works really well for most kids. But it's possible that the way I teach doesn't do really well for all kids. So it doesn't make them bad, and it doesn't make me bad. It really doesn't. It's just, it's the mix. And what we'll do is, I'll do my best to help the kid, and then the kid should learn to do their best to adapt to me, and then hopefully by the end of the year, they get better and better. I can tell you that kids in my class have a long history of the first market period doing okay, and then adjusting to the way I teach, and doing unbelievable the second, third, and fourth market periods. That's how it usually works with most kids. Okay, so what we need to do now is go over today's quiz, and then get started on today's lesson.
Did you already grade?
Oh yeah, they're already graded. In fact, you know what? I have to put them in the book in just a minute. Make sure you're done with those things. Today's lesson 19, right?
Yeah.
Excellent, very good. We got a few hundreds. At the end of the period, if you see me, I'll give you your Oreo. Yes, I will give you the Oreo then. But I did take a minute or two to tell that situation, and I want to make sure that I get through the lesson as best as possible. So I don't want to take too much time to do that right now. Okay, Francine. Actually, you know what I can do? I can do even better. You're a cookie kid. If you win a cookie, just take one.
I'll keep
Okay.
an eye out. Make sure they don't take
What a girl. Allie.
If you don't like them, I'm right here.
Jaden.
Oreos like real Oreos. These are not like the store brand.
They're real Oreos. Isabella. Okay, Phoebe. Francesca.
What if Kirsten was the hun?
I think she did. Maggie.
She doesn't like chocolate.
Oh no.
Oh, Kirsten's weird.
Can I have Trailmix instead if I get 100?
Emma. What's that?
Can I have Trailmix instead if I get 100?
There's not much left. If you want to hang for another day, I'll give you some if you wait until I bring some in. Samantha.
I don't know.
You get a cookie. Hunter.
I don't.
Another cookie. Yasmin. Tanya.
Want to get your braces all black?
No.
Kirsten.
I know, I hate that. Yeah.
She did get
Worse
a
things.
I did?
Yeah.
Yay.
Alex. Maya.
Oh, I did it.
Julia. Alexandra. And Christina. And Mary.
There's one left.
That's for
I got 3 more rolls in there, or 4 more rolls, so you're okay. Ivy.
I forgot that about
80. It says okay, but, or something like that. James.
That does not say okay.
I don't know. I'm going to go over it, though. Sammy.
Not okay.
All right.
How do you do yours, guys?
I'm going to do all 5 questions on the board in just a minute. Mm-hmm. What quiz does this say on top? 5A? Yep.
5A, by the way.
All right. Now, excuse me. Look here. Ready? Remember the purpose of the quiz. Excuse me.
Oh.
The purpose of the quiz is not to see how brilliant you are. Are we clear on that? The first 3 questions on this quiz is all about last year. So if you got any of these first 3 questions wrong, it just means there's something you're not remembering from last year or something you were unclear of from last year. I don't care that you got it wrong. I really, truly don't. If you got a 0, which nobody did, but if you got a 0, I wouldn't go, oh my God, that kid's an idiot. No, not a chance, okay? What I care about is tomorrow's quiz, and then I care about the next quiz. I just want to see that you improve and you get better. Now, I don't think anybody missed letter A. That works out to 5. I'm not even going to bother going over it. The next one, however, 1 or 2 people might have missed. What I want you to realize, the difference between A and B is the letter doesn't always go on the left. And a lot of kids, they tend to try to always work off the left side of an equation. You don't. You work on the variables. The variables are what should have your attention here. This says 4x plus 2 on the right. I need to get the x all by itself. Remember, when we solve an equation, we want letters on one side, numbers on the other. So my first step is to minus 2. Now, if I have 10 negatives and 2 more negatives, what do I have altogether? Negative 12 equals 4x. Then I divide by 4, and I get that x is negative 3. Okay? And just about everybody got B right. C was the problem, and I knew it would be a problem. And I purposely put this last because I expected 50% of you to get this wrong. The reason I expected people to get it wrong is because you're not really truly understanding what this says. What is the difference between, well, you tell me, there's a person named Lindquist. How do I tell the difference if it's through words, not physically, let's make that clear. How do you tell the difference through words if we're talking about the boy Lindquist or the girl Lindquist? Mr. or Mrs. So you have Lindquist here, right? And you look in front of the Lindquist to tell you what kind of Lindquist it is. Agree? So if I say Mr. Apple and Mrs. Apple, you would know, okay, it's the Apple family, but the Mr. means the dad in the family, and the Mrs. means the girl in the family. It's the same exact thing with numbers. We have to look in front of the number to understand what kind of number it is. So when I look at this number 1, is this 1 positive or negative? Positive. So you need to do minus 1. Look at your paper if you got it wrong. A number of people put plus 1. And what those people are doing, hang on, guys, this negative sign here has nothing to do with the 1. It has to do with the 2x. You always peek in front. This is a negative 2x. This negative sign has nothing to do with the 1. The 1 is a positive. So I subtract the 1 and I get 8 equals negative 2x. Now, a number of people forgot to bring down the negative here. They just brought down the 2x. That's a classic mistake. I need to divide by negative 2. Die. X is negative 4. This question reflects a very strong understanding, or lack of, the way positives and negatives work in equations. And what you learn to do is to constantly peek. When it comes to fly fishing and trying to catch a fish, I'm always scanning the water. I'm always looking for subtle little signs that a fish might live in a particular place so I know where to cast my fly. As I look at this, I'm always scanning the equation for positives and negatives. And when I see this 1 minus 2x, in my mind I think of the great Steve Irwin. Danger, danger, danger. One little bite from this beauty, you're a goner. This is like a snake coiled up to just absolutely give you the poison. You have to realize that negative has to do with the 2x and not the 1. It has nothing to do with the 1. That is a super, super common mistake. Okay? Number 2, this is the work we did last week. This you should be very good at. What I'm hoping you remembered to do, this means square the x only, not multiply by 2 first. Order of operations, square first, then multiply by 2. 3 squared is 9, times 2 is 18, plus 4 times 3 is 12, minus 5, and then 18 plus 12 is 30, minus 5 is 25. Okay? So those are the first 4 questions. Do we have any problems with any of those? Anything I was unclear about that I need to come out another way? All right. So now let's go to number 3. And by the way, one of the reasons I do these quizzes, there's a lot of reasons I do them, but one of the reasons for the lesson sheets and the quizzes is it doesn't let me get too far off on the storytelling aspect of things. A homeowner with a pond on his property dumps 2 trout in his pond. The population increases exponentially according to y equals 2 to the x for 4 years, then increases at a constant rate of 4 trout per year for 3 or more years. And it says the word sketch. Now, sketch and graph are 2 different things. Graph means you better have the proper coordinates. Sketch means, just show me what it looks like. You can kind of do the cartoon, good enough. Now, first off, I start with 2 trout in the pond, so you better start there. Somewhere up on the axis. You don't have to write the coordinate. Now, the big thing I'm looking for here is the fact that the graph starts off exponential. That's how an exponential graph would look. And then it becomes linear because it increases at 4 per year. So that's what I'm looking for. If you had that, you're good to go. Okay? Pay attention to where it's linear. I mean, tomorrow it might look like this. I really don't know. Tomorrow might look like this and then get exponential. I don't know. But I'm looking for a linear section, and I'm looking for an exponential section, and I'm looking for you to begin in the proper place. Okay? Any questions? As always, I think it would be a very good idea if you took a few minutes to look that over before tomorrow if you need to do it. Okay. So, read the following situation and sketch being the key word, a story that matches this situation. Now, again, sketch. We're not actually graphing. Maya and Earl, you didn't know they made this problem, did you? What would be really, really cool is if I go back and I have an Adobe Acrobat Professional that would make this font look, when you see this font, this is my font. If this is written, I wrote it, I came up with it. If you see this, that means the state wrote it. So I should go back, because I can copy the state's font, and I should write Minushkin. And it'll look like the state saying Maya Minushkin in the problem. And then I can do like James Earl Jones. Now, Maya and Earl live at opposite ends of the hallway in their apartment building. They each start at their door and they walk at a steady pace towards each other, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so steady pace is like code for, it's code for linear, yeah. So, now they live at opposite ends of the hallway, so they're so many feet apart. So I don't care who's Maya and who's James, but let's say Maya starts here, and she works at a steady pace that way, and Earl, I'm sorry, he lives over on the other end, and he walks, now I don't care if the pace is faster or slower, but he walks at a steady pace toward her. Isn't it obvious that eventually they're going to cross each other? Right? I don't know how long that's going to be, but it will eventually get done. Okay? Now, the unfortunate thing here is that I'm supposed to show you a video. I cannot show you the video because our technology on the computers is no longer accepted by YouTube. So, let's just continue on forward and see where we come up with. This is, remember how I said yesterday was the dumbest lesson of the year? All right, well, this is the second dumbest lesson of the year, and then there's no more dumb lessons, okay? There's this video where a guy walks up and down a flight of stairs. So you can imagine, the big thing here to understand is that if I was to graph it, I start at the ground level, and then I'm going to go up at a certain speed, but then it says walking up and then what? Back down. So I tend to think back down would be quicker, so it would go something like that. You go up and then you what? Go down. All right. If they pause at the stop, then it would look more, I'll do a red one here where they pause at the top. Let's say they're out of shape, and it takes them a really long time to get to the top. Then they got to pause for a really, really, really long time and hold their breath. And then they fall down the stairs. Okay? So, again, quick sketches, just an idea of what it is that's going on there. Okay? Questions? Preguntas? No. Okay. Very good. Something else, and by the way, remember I told you about how I was a really, really bad teacher because I was always telling stories and stuff?
Yes.
Well, research has come out in the middle school age kids, and middle school age kids, they have found out, learn much better when you only teach for about 10 minutes a day. There's 10 to 12 minutes a day. If you try to teach for 30 minutes, The kids get bored and they shut down and they don't learn. Does that describe you?
Wait, a day?
Yeah,
Or a
absolutely.
period?
No, in a period. If you actually physically teach, by that I mean lecture. If you lecture for 10 to 12 minutes a day for a middle school kid, they say that's perfect. All the evidence in the world shows you got to do several activities. Quiz, go over quiz, do it. So you got to have several activities and then keep the lesson brief. If you do that, your kids will do really well. So I kind of found that out accidentally, and then all of a sudden one day an administrator comes in and says, do you know that at Harvard they came out and learned that if you do this, it's perfect, and you do that? I go, oh, got lucky. All right, space below. Write 3 factors you think are important to keep in mind when you sketch simultaneous graphs. Okay, the first thing that's really important to keep in mind is the beginning point. Okay? Remember how when we did the one on the fish a couple of minutes ago, I started up on that axis a little bit because there were 2 fish in the pond when we started? Does that ring a bell? Okay? So that's the first thing you have to pay attention to. The second thing you have to pay attention to is the type of graph. At this point in time, we have done 3 primary graphs. What are they? Emma, what's one of them?
Piecewise linear function.
Well, let's just go linear. Okay, but piecewise is just made up of several linears. So linear is one. Quadratic. And, oh. Good. And the last one, James? Exponential. Good. So pay attention to the kind of graph they're asking you to draw. And the third thing is, does the point of intersection make sense? So let's just do real quick. We just did a sketch a minute ago about people walking up and down the stairs, right? Would it make sense for the point of intersection to be below the floor level or the ground level? No, because you wouldn't meet underground. Remember we did the graphs of the ball being thrown off the building? And we said, could you have negative time? Right, that wouldn't make any sense. So just kind of look at the point of intersection in the context and say, does that make some sort of sense? Next, now arrange these 3 answers in order of importance. What do you think is the most important thing of those 3 if you're going to say, this one's more important, this one's less important, and so on and so forth? Give 1 second. I want everybody to think, and then I'll call on you, okay? I had the hiccups before, too, so I understand. Oh, it's you? So it's really funny because you were hiccuping and she had the pen against her mouth and was doing this while you were hiccuping. Okay. Ivy, what do we got? What's the first most important one? All of the above is a great answer, but I want you to differentiate between them. Okay, Kirsten, what's one of them? Yeah, I mean, if it's an exponential situation, it better not look linear, better not look quadratic, right? All right, so what's the next most important, the beginning point, or does it make sense? Yeah, I mean, you better begin at the right point, right? Like, for instance, if we're doing a question all about the number of fish in a pond, and you start where there's negative fish, does that make any sense? Right? That you must be like an awful fisherman if that's the case. And then finally, you just use number 3 to look things over. All right? All right. Hasta la vista. We got through today's lesson. Okay. Vaya con Dios. Toodaloo. Ta-ta. Arrivederci. Smile a lot. Ciao. Leave Zane. Adios, amigos y amigas. Cheerio. Toodaloo. Ta-ta.